from the Fox 5 studios. This is Silver State Sports Live.
Happy Hump Day, everybody. Welcome inside Silver State Sports Live. I'm Mike Davis. On today's show, part 2 of the Fernando Mendoza interview. Plus, a local hooper is going to get his name called in round 1 of the NBA draft. But first, some unfortunate news for A's second baseman Zach Gelof.
Off the wall, Soderstrom plays it well. Chapman's going to push for second. The relay throw is perfect. And they get him on time. And Gelof might have been stepped on. He got cleated. Oh, man, look at his hand.
That doesn't look good.
Hard to watch that as second baseman Zach Gelof takes a cleat to the hand, going for the tag on Matt Chapman. An immediate reaction from Gelof as he leaves the game after that play. He's diagnosed with a hand laceration and contusion, a sad situation for the red-hot second baseman who now loses a 24-game hit streak after being cleated. Here's manager Mark Kotze on the right hand injury.
No stitches required. Pretty much got him just on the top, kind of in between the thumb and the index. So there's some swelling, no fracture, x-ray was negative. So best positive outcome for that situation. It's just unfortunate, for him with the hitting streak that circumstances took him out of the game, and his hitting streak comes to an end. We'll see how the swelling comes down tomorrow. It's probably going to be sore, of course, but we'll wait. It'll probably be day to day.
All right, joining us now live to break down all things athletics is my dude, the great Steve Cofield, host of Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas. So, Steve, right off the bat, how big of a blow is this for Gelof and the A's?
Well, it's significant because he was a do-it-all guy and playing multiple positions. He's back to his form of a couple of years ago, so disappointing for him, disappointing for the A's. But if they do have positional depth anywhere, it's on the infield, and they've got more than enough outfielder. So as a utility guy, they've got other guys who can fill that role. But the spark that Gelof was offering was a big one, so they're going to have to tough on through this one. And, they've dealt with injuries with the lineup for much of the season. And at least we get the good news that there was no, real damage and not even stitches in Gelof's case. So I'm sure he'll be back sooner than later. And maybe the A's can make a push here in the second half.
Yeah, I was enjoying him at second rather than Jeff McNeil, so we'll hopefully get him back sooner rather than later. But let's move on to Gage Jump. He's on the mound again today. His last start was perhaps his best, going 7, giving up just 1 hit. He's 3-1 right now with a 2.367 ERA. Are you sold on the 23-year-old being a starter, even just an ace in a rotation?
I think I'm sold on the fact that he could be a 1 or a 2 at some point. I'm not going to bank on him being a 1 or a 2 and, throw into a 2.37 ERA all year long. I think once word gets around the league, scouts get a little better handle of what he's throwing, that he'll come back to earth a little bit, but he definitely has the stuff. He has the mentality. I mean, one of the cool things about him is his first time in the major leagues, it seems to have taken him to another level. A lot of pitchers struggle when they get to the major leagues, and he's actually throwing more strikes, and he's throwing harder at times, so that's a great sign. So they've got a legit, 1 or 2 while he stays at this level. He's certainly a 3 or a 4. But, I mean, tremendous draft pick, and the fact that he's gone through the minors this quickly and he's contributing early on is a great sign for the A's. But as you and I have talked about a lot, the fact that the A's have come out of the gates here near 500, the division is not great. I think the Mariners may take off here as their pitching gets healthier. So I really want to see the A's get aggressive and start looking around and, going out and grabbing someone. I think they need a reliever. I think they need some starting pitching depth, and I hope they do it.
Yeah, we'll see what they do at the trade deadline. Let's talk about the big Amish, Nick Kurtz. This guy is going off in the month of June, batting .280 with 20 RBI and 9 homers. Is it a travesty that he's currently in 4th for the AL voting for the All-Star game at first base?
Well, Vegas has to pick it up, right? Are they our team or are they our team? We know that. I don't know if hardcore A's fans in the Bay Area are holding back on Nick Kurtz. I hope they wouldn't do that. I hope you don't penalize a player for the organization deciding to move on. But no, he's tremendous. And again, this is a guy who is going to be an MVP candidate. He certainly should be an all-star at his position, but he's going to be an MVP candidate if he continues to produce like this. And he's only going to get better. He's awesome, man. I've had the discussion, as we do these cheesy discussions sometimes, about who's going to be the face of the A's when they arrive in Las Vegas. Gage Jump has a chance. Guys like Gelof, if he really is a 20-20 guy playing multiple positions, has a chance. Wilson has a chance. But Nick Kurtz is a guy who's probably going to be a 30-100 guy hitting 290 with a, OBP in the 430s. Absolutely is going to be the face of the franchise. And I can't believe how good he is, how early, and he's so mature and just getting better.
Yeah, and he, just his plate presence beyond just knocking some home runs, but just walking, hitting for percentage. He's such a great player. Last year we saw Brent Rooker in the home run derby. Would Nick Kurtz, in your estimation, if he were to be in the home run derby, would that be must-watch TV, Steve?
Yeah, I think he'd be a great invite. It'd be smart of baseball to have him in it as one of the young stars. And I think most guys who are gap hitters, and he really is a guy who will go the opposite way. He's not a pull hitter. I think when they get to home run derbies, they can actually turn it on and, just deliver blows to their power part of the field. So I think he'd do awesome. He's a gigantic guy, so I don't think he would wear down. And baseball should consider him. You want to build big stars. A lot of the older guys don't want to do it. I bet you Nick Kurtz would do it.
And hey, in Philadelphia, as a kid from Lancaster,
Yeah.
it would be his, growing up a Phillies fan, he really would be able to maybe smack some balls out to that Liberty Bell. Last thing on the A's here. So, of course, you alluded to earlier in our conversation that the Mariners could be getting hot with pitching starting to get a little healthier there. For most of the season, though, the A's were in first place. Now they're in second. They're going to have another division battle coming up after the San Francisco Giants against the Angels. Do you think they have what it takes to get back into first place of the AL West, or are the A's really going to be competing for a wild card spot?
I think they have what it takes to make a run at, say, 82 or 83 wins. I don't think that's going to be good enough to win the division, and that's why I'm asking A's management to go and get some help. Some extra arms could help them jump to a level where they can win 87, 88 games. I don't know if they can get in the 90s. I don't know if the Mariners will get in the 90s. I do think that I know that there was an interesting story today that I read about trade deadline teams and teams that might be selling. And hey, if one of the evil empires wants to give up, and they have terrible ownership, and John Henry, if the Red Sox want to give up, hey, the A's should make a run at Sonny Gray. The A's should make a run at Aroldis Chapman. Those are the kind of guys that, one, they could manage the salary. Two, they wouldn't have to trade a whole lot for. There might be a competitive market, especially for Gray, but I think for Chapman, he'd be a great addition. But yeah, go out and get some arms, and I think this team absolutely can then shoot for above 85 wins, and that would have them in the race, as you said, for at a minimum a wild card in an AL that is very balanced. And there are some teams that have kind of performed over their skis so far. I don't know if the White Sox are going to stay at this level, but the A's can compete. Go get a little bit of help.
Yeah, I agree, especially if they can get a little bit of experience for these young guys. So when they eventually get here in 2028, they already have some playoff experience in a wild card spot. That would be a great thing. Now, still to come ahead on Silver State Sports Live, Cofield is going to be sticking around with us because we're going to shift from the diamond to the hardwood. Does Steve like the reported news of Bill Foley trying to get the Vegas NBA franchise? We're going to get his take on all that at Silver State Sports Live. Return.
This week on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. Your Triple SEN lineup is sponsored by AAA Roadside Assistance. Visit AAA today. You're watching Silver State Sports Live.
All right, we're back with the one and only Steve Cofield of Cofield and Company. You can catch his show 3 to 6 p.m. weekdays on ESPN Las Vegas. So let's talk some hardwood. First up, the NBA draft. That was last night. You're a big Nets fan. Now, they took Mikel Brown Jr. of Louisville at pick 6 over my guy, Darius Acuff Jr. So he went next. Right after that, pick number 7 to the Sacramento Kings. Pure scorers like that just don't grow on trees, Steve. What did you think of the move? Did you like the pick over Acuff?
No, I like Acuff, and I saw a lot of negativity. Not a lot. I saw some negativity about Acuff being a smaller guard, and you want to stay away from smaller guards. I mean, this is a league that picks up on trends. Jalen Brunson just won a title, so Acuff's one of my favorite guys. I think multiple teams screwed up in not taking him. And then the weird part is he did land with the Kings, so they made the right pick, but it always feels like whoever the Kings take is snake bitten. So hopefully he turns out and the Kings can start to turn things around.
I know, it's a shame. I was hoping, draft being in Brooklyn, Cuff, I mean, the fans would have went crazy there. The kid just seems so talented and ready to make an impact right now, whereas Brown Jr.'s got he's more of a project. So it's fascinating. But like you said, anybody that goes to the Sacramento Kings, you worry they're not going to develop. But another guy who was drafted by the Nets, your Nets last night, is a local kid. He heard his name, Joshua Jefferson, a selection as part of that Julius Randle trade. Now, this kid, he played at Liberty High School here in town, Jefferson. So what did you think about the 6'9" forward from Iowa State going to the Nets?
I think it's a good pick. He's a tweener player, at the 3 and the 4. He could probably, in small lineups, play the 4, but he can play the 3. He's a thick kid. If you know anything about the Jefferson family, they're local legends. They're gigantic human beings. His dad's like 6'10",
yeah, his
370.
Dad was an NFL O-lineman.
Yeah. But Cam Jefferson played at UNLV, played at Arkansas. We've had Cam on our show locally. He's a big dude. He played at 6'5" and 320. So big-bodied guy in Jefferson. And he did it right in his career. He went and got good schooling, got experience at St. Mary's. He went on to pretty good winning ways. It was a shame what happened for the NCAA tournament that he wasn't healthy, but he's an NBA player. It's a really good story. And I will say, if we were looking for a negative angle, he is one of the examples of why UNLV has got to get local kids. And, losing to an Iowa State in the transfer portal is one thing because they had a lot more money to offer Josh Jefferson. But coming out of high school, he was highly touted and he was recruited, but that would have been a nice win for UNLV to eventually pair with Deion Thomas, both Liberty guys, but that didn't work out. But for Josh Jefferson, good for him, man. He's going to have a very productive NBA career, make lots of money, and hopefully fits into a position and has a good career.
Yeah, of course. It's nice to hear him get his name called in the first round. Of course, he went on to play for Otzelberger, a guy who dumped UNLV as well. But, all right, last thing here, Steve. We got to get your take on this. I feel like it's going to be fiery, but I just want to let it fly. So, Vegas Golden Knights team owner Bill Foley in the news this week as he prepares to launch a bid for the NBA expansion team here in Las Vegas. Do you think Bill Foley would be a good owner for the NBA franchise here in Vegas?
I think he'd be a solid owner. I don't know that it's a slam dunk. I saw a couple of different threads on this, and people love Bill Foley for what he's done with Vegas Golden Knights. NHL is different than the NBA. I can't make any determination on Foley from this standpoint. I don't know who he's going to bring in, so I don't know who the management team would be. I assume based on the fact that he got McPhee and McCrimmon and he stuck with them and he lets them do what they want and he's hyper aggressive. And I will say this league is different, though. Again, I'll repeat it. It is different than the NHL, where the NHL seems to have a bunch of owners who have resentment for their star players, don't want to pay them. Fans have resentment for their star players. I mean, it's the way the league has worked, and VGK has walked in that door and taken good players left and right in the case of Marner, in the case of Eichel. That doesn't happen in the NBA a whole lot. I know Giannis just went in what I thought was a ridiculous deal on the Bucks' part to Miami, but players aren't available like that. So your scouting has to be top-notch. You've got to nail good players in the draft. I think he'd be a good owner, but I want to see the full list of people who are going to bid on an NBA team. And I think the other part of it is the league is different from a social standpoint, and I don't know that Bill Foley would be uncomfortable with what NBA players and NBA teams do, but it is much different than the NHL.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's a good point with the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade because, guys like Pat Riley really have that force to get star players to come to Miami in a trade like that. And I really do think whoever is the owner of this NBA franchise, the glitz and glamour of Las Vegas is going to be paired so much with this team's success early on. And that's why I think Bill Foley has done a great job as an owner, and it's evident. But in the NBA, you might need a Magic Johnson. I still don't, think that LeBron's out. I think there's going to be somebody of that magnitude at the forefront for ownership when it comes to the NBA in Las Vegas. So we'll see what happens. But, Steve, you're the best. Make sure you go listen to him. Right after this show's done, 3 to 6 p.m. ESPN Las Vegas. I'll be joining you on the radio in a little bit too, Steve. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Coming up, part 2 of my conversation with Fernando Mendoza. Hear more from this impressive young man when Silver State Sports Live returns.
You're watching Silver State Sports Live.
Well, he's a national champion, a Heisman Trophy winner, the top pick of the NFL draft. Fernando Mendoza is the future for the Las Vegas Raiders, and I was lucky enough to sit down with the face of the franchise to talk a little bit about everything, his life, growing up, and what he expects for himself at the NFL level. Here's part 2 of my conversation with Fernando Mendoza. See, let me ask you about this, because this is where you're a unicorn, okay? You were a 2-star recruit in high school. You were going to go to Yale. Okay? Yep. I mean, the other schools that were in the mix were Lehigh, University of Pennsylvania. I mean, it wasn't like the #1 schools in the country were knocking down your door. You had a higher GPA than your national star rating for football. I mean, it's the inverse.
I don't understand that. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. You're a 4.87 in college. In high school, you had a 4.7. It's the inverse of what usually occurs with the #1 overall pick in the draft. He's usually, you know, a 4.7 5-star recruit with maybe a 2.0 GPA. So it's the opposite for you, which is so crazy. And you consistently bet on yourself, right? You go to Cal, you know, then you see the opportunity. Your school that was in your backyard, the Miami Hurricanes, they didn't want you. Then they kind of gave you a little bit more in NIL. You're like, no, I'm going to stay with Signetti. I'm going to go do this thing at Indiana. Tell me about the way that you bet on yourself, the chip on your shoulder. To me, you have a lot in common with Tom Brady. Even though he was a much further on draft pick, not the top pick of the draft, and he had to battle guys like Drew Henson and stuff at Michigan. But to me, you guys are cut from the same cloth because you got that determination, you got that will, the willingness to want to be great. Tell me a little bit of how much you see of yourself in him and how just being a 2-star recruit, how much of the chip do you really have on your shoulder?
Yeah, well, first of all, Tom Brady, he's the GOAT, and there's no comparison between me and him, especially at this stage of my career. However,
we need that.
Having researched Tom and other great athletes, having that chip on your shoulder and having a calculated chip on your shoulder is a very instrumental part to your success and growth as an athlete, in believing in yourself, taking that bet in yourself, doing everything possible to prepare and win the next game and to dominate that opponent. And those are all characteristics I carried when I was through Cal, Indiana, and hopefully to carry through the Raiders, of making sure that I can sleep well at night knowing I did everything possible. I watched every little bit of film. I did everything I needed to do on the nutrition and physical side, and mentally I was all there to best serve my teammates because I never want to let my teammates down. So in that, if I can do those things, I can sleep well at night knowing that, hey, if it's a positive outcome, fantastic. Even if it's a negative outcome, hey, it happens. There's things to learn from it. You get better for the next experience, but at least I knew I did everything possible at that moment in time.
All right, to check out the full interview, just go to our YouTube page at Silver State Sports. Coming up, we got some immaculate grid action going down. Producer James Edward Barrickman, the fourth, and I are going to try and knock out an entire immaculate grid with the time we have left in the show. Can we do it? Let's see.
You're watching Silver State Sports Live.
All right, it's a Wednesday that kind of feels like a Friday, so we're going to have some fun. We're going to do some immaculate grid action. Look at that handsome fella right there, James Edward Barrickman, the fourth, my producer.
What's happening?
He's going to help me out. We're going to do this together, a little bit of immaculate grid. This is what James always does in the back office. So right off the bat, James, we're gonna work together. Raiders, Vikings, come on, Randy Moss.
Yeah, that's easy money. Let's just go with that. We'll try and get some more obscure players going here, but I like Randy Moss to get it rolling.
Okay.
3,000 yards passing for the Cowboys.
I mean, in that says in a season. I mean, it's got to be Tony Romo.
Who was the kid from Pitt? Okay, yeah, I guess. We're just trying to get it done.
We're trying to get it done. Left here. Yeah, let's do Romo there. Okay, and then we know, of course, why don't we do Carson Palmer or Boomer Esiason? Okay, Andy Dalton. Okay, we'll do well there. All right, Dante Culpepper. You want to do him for Vikings?
Culpepper, sure. No, the Miracle in Minneapolis. Who was the quarterback? Oh, Mike, come on.
Kirk Cousins. Well, we got Kirk Cousins.
No, we'll just go.
Case Keenum.
Case Keenum.
Case
yes,
Keenum.
Yes.
Case Keenum. See? There you go. Not Case Kiefer, Case Keenum.
No.
Okay.
We got about 2 minutes left here.
Okay,
so
let's
we'll
see.
keep it
Who
rolling.
else we got? Jets and Vikings. Jets and Bengals and Jets.
Yeah. Good
Who-
call by Bishop,
who did-
our director in here. We got Brett Favre.
Okay,
That
of
was,
course.
Yeah, good call.
Bengals and Raiders.
This is hard on the spot, man.
Who else? And Cowboys and Raiders.
Palmer, was Palmer a Raider?
Yes, he was. Carson Palmer was. Dude, that's good we didn't use him before.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have Cowboys
I keep
and
wanting to
Raiders.
say George Pickens, but I just want him to be
No.
on the Raiders.
Yeah, that's your
Yeah,
dream
Amari
scenario.
Cooper, good call. Yeah.
Amari Cooper.
Dude, Bishop's finishing
Look
this
at
for
Director
us.
Bishop.
We need to get a director cam in here for our guy. We got a minute left.
A minute left. Jets and Bengals. Ooh, that's a tough
Jets
one.
and Bengals. Was like I want to say like not an Isaiah Crowell.
No.
Jason
I
Witten.
I always want to say Antonio Cromartie.
Was that Jet?
No.
Yeah. Jason Witten, Jets.
No, he didn't play for the Jets. No.
That was a call
He
from
was
our
a lifer.
director's office. He was a lifer. Wow,
He was a lifer with the Cowboys.
we gotta shout out Jake.
Are we not going to get this? How much time we have left in show?
We got 30 seconds.
30 seconds. I always want to say Antonio Cromartie for everything. Was Cromartie on the Jets?
We just got Devin Smith, but we
Okay.
ran out of time. We got 20 seconds
Man,
left here.
all
in
right,
show.
we almost got it done. We got to see if we do it again. It's the
Devin
Brady
Smith was a
Bunch
great call, though.
of
Jets
NFL.
Cowboys there.
Immaculate grid. Look at this. It's good to see producer Cam. Good to see a little
Sound
behind the scenes. Thanks so much for joining us today on Silver State Sports Live. I feel defeated. We got to do this tomorrow again. We'll see you guys then.